going back to that speech that Hegseth did make when he addressed a security summit of US allies in Singapore late last week, he warned that Beijing poses an imminent threat to Taiwan. And then he went on to say, and I thought this was very interesting, if deterrence fails and if called upon by the commander in chief, we are prepared to do what the Department of Defense does best, to fight and win decisively. Now, I don't know that the US has ever fought and won decisively, at least in the 21st century, we'll say. But how do you view Hegseth's comments? Obviously, they aren't made lightly. And is this about getting US proxies in the region to increase defense spending, or is this more so about literally preparing them for war?
I think it's a preparation for war. I think it was like the closing argument of a prosecuting attorney in a courtroom for war. Certainly, they want the proxies to, do a large part of it. It fits into the larger pattern. Remember, a few weeks ago, Pete Hegseth's memo to the Pentagon was leaked, where he said that we have to pivot to China, prepare for war against China over Taiwan. This is why we're reprioritizing. And the larger context of this is Elbridge Colby, who was the 2018 author of the National Defense Strategy. He's the one who actually officially, in black and white, in paper, on ink, named China as the official enemy. In his 2018 National Defense Strategy, he wrote a book called Strategy of Denial. And the Strategy of Denial is essentially a book that says we need to go to war with China over Taiwan. We need to go to war with China. Taiwan will be the trigger. We will wrong foot them, make them look bad, and then we'll rally all of our allies, and then we will destroy China. That's that's the book in a nutshell. And he has his entire, he has an entire website, the Marathon Institute, etc. He has his own think tank, but he's out of CNAS, and they've been obsessively scheming and planning war against China, at least since 2008, 2009, from the Center for New American Security, for where he was a fellow. This is direct continuity with the Biden administration. Biden administration has 18 members of CNAS in their administration, obsessed with war with China. Jake Sullivan, Eli Ratner, Kurt Campbell, all of them, the ghouls that we've discussed before. Elbridge Colby, who is the grandson of William Colby, the CIA chief who was responsible for the Phoenix program in Vietnam. He is part of this coterie of China hawks that have really, really put a lot of thought and effort into how do we start a war and how do we destroy China. And it looks like that entire speech was written by Elbridge Colby, or most of it. It boils down to this, China is a threat. China is evil. China is a threat. We're preparing for war with China. We are going to rehearse and recruit our vassals for war, logistically, in terms of interoperability, weapons, sustainment, repair. And this will be a world war across the entire Pacific. And this war is ours to win. But we are urgent. We need to start this war right away. We're desperate for war. That's the message of this, speech. And the key thing to understand is that Pete Hegseth has said, and this is why I say it's a declaration of war, is that Pete Hegseth has said essentially to China that if you exercise your sovereign rights as a sovereign country over your sovereign territory, we will destroy you. That is what he said, because Taiwan is part of China. The UN recognizes this. The US State Department recognizes this. It agreed, in 3 communiques. It's on the website. Taiwan is part of China. Certainly the Chinese see it as part of China. The Taiwan Constitution itself recognizes itself as part of China. Every country on the planet recognizes Taiwan as part of China. And the United States, Pete Hegseth, has said to China, if you exercise your sovereign rights for reunification, or if you take action to reunify Taiwan, then we will go to war against you. And I think it doesn't get any more obvious than that, that that is essentially a declaration of war. I mean, it's a coded declaration, but it doesn't take much decoding. The United States has essentially signaled that it is going to go to war, and then it threw a whole bunch of lies in just to make it more convincing. I can unpack those if you want to, but it's an extraordinarily, extraordinarily dangerous and belligerent action. And as I said, it's like the bar drunk, who is spoiling for a fight. Pete Hegseth, is that bar drunk. He's the DUI hire, and he is, starting to throw punches.